right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is your best friend Justin from J Master Productions. I got some things I wanted to talk about with you guys today involving the micro influencers who I so often speak about. Right here, I found this on X, and I'm going to show you guys some stuff on X here. If you don't follow me, please do. My username will be in the description box below. But this is really funny because it's Andrew Tate, it's Nick Fuentes. I'm actually not sure who this guy is. Obviously, a lot of us know who that was, Myron Gaines. Of course, Tristan Tate is here. I'm not too sure who this guy is. There's two guys here who I'm not too familiar with who they are. There's also the guy Justin Waller. I haven't really watched much of their content, but in regards to Tate, Fuentes, Myron Gaines, I used to watch them a lot. Tate got really big in like 2022, 2023, when the the party of rationality, the so-called conservative MAGA people, started to seem like the more rational people when Biden was the president, and we had all this crazy far left stuff going on, and it was really crazy. And the people like Tate, people like Myron Gaines, even Fuentes, and people like Jake Shields, Candace Owens, even like these people sounded very logical and rational compared to what we were seeing on the TV, compared to our counterparts who might be leaning left or whatever that you might just know. But it's really funny how these guys just got together, and I'll show you some more clips here. They went out to a club together. So this clip here is them doing the
Juice man! Juice man! They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. Nigga, how Hitler? They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. All my niggas Nazis, nigga, how Hitler?
Yeah, man, it's really weird. This doesn't surprise me, but it's really funny. It's very funny how all these guys are in a limousine, right? You saw in the last clip, too, they had all those ladies. It looked like they're in a nice house. Now they're in some sort of limousine. Looks like they're having some drinks, and they're about to go to a club. They're dressed all nice. They look all sophisticated. You see, it's funny how they're tying these, micro-influencers, and they started doing it with Tate, right? When Andrew Tate was portraying this lavish, rich, wealthy lifestyle that pretty much 99.9% of people will never be able to achieve, because Andrew Tate and all these people, my opinion about them. These guys are all controlled up. These guys are what you would call a grifter. These guys are the fake alt media. That's what all of these guys are here. Nick Fuentes right now, out of all of them, is probably the most popular, and probably the one that I would expect least to be doing something like this. But it's interesting he is, because of course he's just playing a part. These guys all, Sneeko, I forgot even him. I used to watch Sneeko a little bit too back in the day. And what these guys are doing is they're just appealing to the younger conservative minds out there, the young alt media, more in particular men, right? They're trying to target the Gen Z, maybe millennial type men, who a lot of them probably are single, probably don't have kids really, because my generation doesn't really get married or have kids anymore, or even get into intimate relationships as much as in the past, as I've spoken about many times. But this is appealing to them, right? It's cool. It's flashy. It's sophisticated, right? It's like, not only are we garnering millions of views on the internet, we're talking about truth, so-called, and real stuff, and influencing minds, but now we get to live this lifestyle of I don't have to work a 9 to 5. I get donations and money, so I could just afford to go out and party and do these things, and it's appealing, right? It appeals to the younger minds out there who look at these guys as not only that they give good information, but then they want to try and get this lifestyle that they have. Like with Myron Gaines, I used to watch his Fresh and Fit podcast all the time, and ultimately what that podcast does is it makes you hate women, right? He has all these low class, OnlyFans model types girls on his show, and it's entertaining. I'll give it that. It's entertaining to see the silly things that they say and that they debate about, and how the guys seem to always put the girls in their place with all these rational things they're saying, but nonetheless, let's keep watching here. They're doing the Hail Hitler because all these guys, they're very anti-Israel. That's also another thing that's really divided these conservative types a lot. The right-wing type people is some people are pro-Trump and not pro-Trump. There's the whole thing with Israel, and other things like going on now with ICE, police and military. Like, there's a whole lot going on right now. I mean, 2026 has really kicked off with a lot of shit going on. So I'm not sure who this guy is. Let me get out of the way here. I'm not too sure who this guy is. Maybe if some of you know who he is, please let me know, because I'm not too sure, to be honest. Actually, let's get myself out of this. All right, now let's play it. Now you don't got to see my ugly face anymore.
She reaching down in my pants. She got the rope in her hands. Yeah, of course. She reaching down in my pants. She got the. Oh, we're here? We should have kept it going.
Going out there to the club, you know, pulling up in style, pulling up all flashy and things. And, you know, again, this is attractive to like the Gen Z, millennial type dudes out there who maybe they do stuff like this. And listen, there's nothing wrong with going out and partying. Listen, I enjoy going out, having drinks, smoking marijuana just as much as the next person does. I totally do. But, I mean, these guys right here, what they're doing is they're not genuine. That's the problem. And a lot of people think they're genuine. They think that they're the alt media. They think these guys are all, you know, getting these views organically and stuff. And listen, whether they're an op or not, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant. They're either a useful idiot or they're just working and trying to push information for a particular reason. And they're just getting paid, you know, under the books and stuff. You know, one of the posts I saw of them in the limousine dancing to the Hail Hitler thing was from David Icke, and he brings a good point here with ask yourself why. Like, why are these guys all together? Why are they showing it? You know, why are they doing it? And it's all about influencing because, you know, it's like I said, the right-wing Avengers that this guy calls them, I mean, this is really just, again, I don't know who this guy is, but the rest of them, of course, I'm familiar with. But again, like, Tate is entertaining. I understand. Myron Gaines, like, he's entertaining. Nick Fuentes is entertaining, right? Like, they're all entertaining. I understand. And they say things that, again, they appeal to the young man whose mind is more conservative, right? Who doesn't like any of the wokeness that we saw, who thinks that liberals are the bad people, right? They gravitate towards these micro-influencers, right? And I've spoken about it many times, but people just, you know, they fall victim to these guys because they're pushed on them. If someone is asking questions and finally understanding, okay, like politicians and mainstream media and what the vast majority of people know to be true isn't necessarily true, they start to do some independent research maybe, and they fall down the rabbit hole of these guys. And there's more, you know, like Candace Owens, Jake Shields, Ian Carroll, Alex Jones, a whole bunch of these like micro influencers who play a big role in the alt media. See, there really is no alternative media. The alternative media is me. The alternative media is you, just the average everyday person who's trying to get information out there that's important. And the problem is that there's algorithms that work against the actual truth that's trying to get out there. And listen, even if I was making silly, funny content, just trying to be get views from being funny, it's still not going to be easy. But when you talk about actual things that matter, you know, that when you don't have a motive of money or trying to, or you don't have an agenda behind you besides just telling people what's really going on in the truth, because I understand that me just keeping the truth to myself isn't changing the world. It's not helping anyone. So that's why I come up on here and I do it and I talk about these guys. And a lot of people have no idea even what I'm talking about. Like, I sound weird to the average person because, you know, they don't really understand the things that I talk about. And it's, for me, it's, you know, that's why I say, like, it gets lonely being a truther and stuff and knowing these things because it's just really hard to relate to anyone that you come across. But here's them in the club right now. Here they are. Mute that. They're having a good old time in the club here. I'll get myself out. But yeah, man, you know, they got all these like cute girls and like they got the dresses on. The girls themselves look all nice. You know, it's just a joke, man. Like when I saw this, I was laughing and joking. And you know, to the people that might be fans of some of these guys, they want to be there with them. They want to say, oh man, I wish I could be there and party with them and talk to them and ask them questions and ask them what they think about this and that. You know, it's like these guys are famous in the alt media, right? And what I was trying to say before is me and you really are the alt media. These guys are big. I mean, these guys together have probably 20 to 30 to 40 million views altogether. In terms of following, they have easily probably around a couple million altogether. Actually, much more than that. What am I saying? Because I remember last time I went on Tate's Twitter, he had like 10 million followers. So these guys got millions and millions of views and followers combined. They're out here in the club partying. And again, I know they're all on the younger side, right? They're all around my age. And again, there's nothing wrong with going out to the club, having drinks, smoking, whatever. I enjoy these things just as much as the next guy does. But it's just funny to me that they're showing this and they're doing the Hail Hitler. It's all about influence. It's trying to make truth look like sexy. That's what I feel like they're trying to do with these guys. Is they're trying to like make it and they started doing it with Tate, kind of like what I was saying earlier, how they market this lifestyle that none of us have. They have all these viewers, they get all these donations, they get a lot of followers and subscribers, and then on top of that they kind of make it like seductive, because they'll show you not only nice cars, a nice house, but also like a lifestyle, a fast lifestyle, like a lifestyle of a rich person that you would think that you've probably seen like in movies and stuff, or that you think about when you think about a multimillionaire, like these celebrities in Hollywood, right? And then they got the girls surrounding them, so it's like they're making it. And listen, women like rebels, don't get me wrong. They don't like men that just sit and comply and have no morals and have no beliefs and have nothing that they stand for. They don't like guys like that. But them showing it is like, oh look, we're rebels and we get all these women because we rebel. And again, what I'm trying to say is they're making truth like seductive, and they're making it look like that it's like an internet entrepreneur type thing, that if you get big telling the truth, that you can live this lifestyle that they're doing. So it's really funny. I also wanted to touch on this real quick. We have all these things going on with ICE, and I'm sure I just made a video about the Renee Good, and there's all these protests going on. You could even see here that right now, Abolish ICE is trending. And of course I believe that, I don't believe in government, I don't believe in authority, I don't believe in military and police, I don't believe in any of that bullshit. And the right, conveniently, is making sure that they support Trump with the police and the military and all that. You see, it's no different, and I'm seeing a lot of comparisons on X here to what happened in 2020 when COVID was going around, and a lot of the people on the left were just saying, oh, just comply, just show proof, and no one's going to bother you. You won't get sick, anything like that. Basically just comply and no one gets hurt, and we can go back to normal, right? That's what was going on. And a lot of the people who were conservative leaning or were hardcore conservatives were saying, no, we're not going to comply because this is an invasion of our freedom and our, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's a virus, so-called, that you have less than a 1% chance of dying from, and they're locking everyone up, making you wear face masks. It made no sense, and that's because there really was no virus to begin with. The virus was the media. But not to get too far off topic, now with ICE, now the conservatives are saying, no, just show your paperwork, because now there's all this stuff going on about ICE saying that they want paperwork, and even if you are an American citizen, right, that you must be prepared to show paperwork if ICE stops you and wants to see it. And the conservatives are defending it, saying, oh, we have to do this anyway. If you get stopped by a police officer, or a police officer asks for your ID, right? The conservatives just support anything Trump does. If this was coming from Kamala Harris doing all these things, they wouldn't accept it. But because it's Trump, they trust him. Like I always say, MAGA and the conservatives they're very easy to fool. And now they're saying, well, just comply and no one gets hurt. And it's the same thing that's happening in 2020. You comply, no one's going to bother you, you're not going to get hurt. We need to get the illegals out, just like when in 2020 it was get the unvaccinated out, isolate the unvaccinated. Now we're isolating people who maybe it's going to start with illegal immigrants, right? Illegal immigrants is going to be what they're going to say these things are for, but then it's going to slowly, and we're seeing it now, go to, oh, it's American citizens. We got to make sure everyone is legal. We got to make sure that everyone is following the rules. And then after that, whatever event happens, they can easily just twist it and say, okay, even if you support ICE, even if you're a MAGA supporter, we're going to use this because this technology we have, and we're going to use federal agents because you said something on the internet that questions Big Brother and the government. And what people don't understand is the bigger picture here. They don't understand that maybe now, because they like what's going on, that and they support what's going on, that this is a good thing. But what people don't realize is that when you want to question the government, when you have a problem with what the government is doing, maybe now everything is okay in your eyes, but there's going to come a day where you have an opinion, where you want to voice something, or you want to just post a meme on the internet, and you're not going to be allowed to, because you, by supporting this now, have allowed this technology to be implemented, and now it's going to keep being used, and they're just going to keep using excuses as to why it's necessary. Well, we need to make sure people are legal. We need to make sure there's no domestic terrorists. We need to make sure people are following the rules, and we need to make sure that people have the right documents, so we know exactly who they are, and that they're not a danger to society, right? And people most likely will go along with it, because time and time again, no matter what happens, people will trade their freedom for security. That's what we've learned time and time again with the current state of humanity is in, is they will easily trade all their safety and security that they have the right to use themselves. They will outsource it to the government in the name of keep me safe from the danger, and I don't have to worry about it. And it all comes down to, well, I don't want to be responsible for myself or for the safety of myself or other people, so I'm just going to let the government do it for me and decide and take me to court over it and make me pay fines, and they're going to make a judgment on me. I mean, it's really ridiculous when you think about all these things. So I wanted to talk about this real quick, along with the Myron Gaines, Nick Fuentes, the Tates going out to a nightclub together, because all these guys support ICE, right? And like I've said many times, ICE is the talk right now. ICE, people seem to have forgot that we just kidnapped the president of Venezuela, because now all this ICE bullshit is happening, and all these guys are supporting it, So it's about divide and conquer. That's what the whole ICE shit is about: divide and conquer, implementing the next generation of technology to come in to track and trace, so that we're under a surveillance state, and that there's going to be police and military all over the place. There might come a day where there's not even humans that are going to be the authority. It might just be robots. It might just be AI completely running the show in government. Because, like I said, we're entering a time period where there's not going to be a left and right anymore. There's just going to be, this is the truth, and this is what is, and if you have a problem with that, then we're going to isolate you from society. And people are going to be okay with it. They just have to cause some catastrophes. They have to just get the majority of people on board with it and convinced that this is for the greater good. And if people go along with it, which they probably are, then we are going to be under technocracy. We are not going to be allowed to have an opinion. You're not going to be allowed to post memes even questioning the government. It's going to be just like in Venezuela now, how you cannot question and talk bad about the government, or in Cuba, or any of these communist places. This is what the world is turning into, not just America. And people need to wake the hell up and realize that. So that's what I wanted to say. Like, listen, if you support any of these guys, I understand they're entertaining. I understand they sit, not everything they say is a lie. Like, they say some shit that's true. And they're just refreshing to hear sometimes, because in this world of madness, maybe you don't hear many people talking about truth too much, or saying things that are in favor of, let's just say, men, right? Because let's be real, a lot of the young men, these guys like Tate and Myron Gaines, them two, and Sneeko also, with the podcast that they did, they woke a lot of men up, and a lot of it wasn't for the good. There was an obvious agenda against young men to feminize us and to make us weak, right? Just to put that in a nutshell. And a lot of men have woken up, and now it's like this hyper masculinity. It's where, like, oh, well, now we have to make sure like women are in the kitchen, that they don't have the right to vote and work and go to school and all these things, which is wrong, because that's suppressing someone else. If any content creator is making you hate a particular group of people, or making you think it's this group of people that's doing everything, like the Jews, for example, like Fuentes always talks about, they're misleading you and they're making you hate. Okay? Yes, it is the Zionists, as I said many times, Zionism is a problem. The Zionists are a problem. But it's not solely them. They're partnered with a whole ton of other secret societies and secret groups that are making all these things happen to us. So I suggest you turn all these guys off. I suggest you stop watching them and stop listening to them. If you have the ears to hear and you can really listen with discernment, go right ahead. If you want to just listen to them for entertainment, hear what they got to say. But I would turn them off. And then, So anyway, I just wanted to wrap it up by saying that about those influencers. Like, I would really suggest that if you're listening to these guys and you take them serious, to stop watching them. You're much better off listening to someone like me, to someone like Mark Passio, to someone like Derek Bros, or people like Richie from Boston, A Call for an Uprising, Truth Unedited. Who else? The Truth Is, Truth Seeker. Like, you're much better off listening to these guys, who, even though they might not have everything figured out, they're much more genuine, and they're much more on par with what they're saying, as opposed to these micro influencers here who clearly have an agenda, right? And if they're supporting, like I said, all this tyranny, all this government authority, if they support it because they don't like illegal immigrants for whatever reason, it just goes to show where their whole mentality is at. That they cannot see the forest for the trees. That they still believe in government. They believe in authority. They believe in harming people in the name of a greater good for a certain people. If that makes any sense to you. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about those micro influencers. I talked about them a whole lot in 2025, and I'm sure I'm gonna do the same thing this year because they keep getting bigger. More and more people, that I just know in my life are realizing who these people are. So obviously the normies are starting to know. A lot of people know who Tate is, but guys like Nick Fuentes, he's still not big enough to where everyone knows. He's becoming known, but he's not known to where he's like super famous. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about everything I said here and these micro influencers and all this stuff going on with ICE and Platineer, because there seems to be a lot going on this year, in particularly with not only with ICE but these other countries as well. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. But drop a comment, like the video, subscribe, share it around, and I'll see you guys in the next one.